This is a tenor trombone. This is a soprano trombone. This is Little Debbie. This is Deborah. So what practical purpose does this have? Frankly, not a lot. It is used as the higher ranged instruments in a trombone choir, and for very little use in orchestra and such. But other than that, there isn't much practical purpose for this thing. It would be very good in jazz, that's for sure. But I'm not a jazz musician. Well, at least I'm not. I am mostly a classical musician, so I don't have a lot of use for this instrument. However, I will give it one thing. It is very fun, and it's very funny. I mean, just look at it. So, upon playing this instrument, I notice it's quite a lot more different than it is from trumpet. Well, for one, you have a friggin' slide. And for two, it sounds a little bit different, and it actually plays a lot more different. Me, I am not a trumpet player at all. I cannot play trumpet for the life of me, and my opinions very much are subjective, and they're just what I experience as a low brass player. So everything I'm gonna say is not gospel at all. This should not be what you base everything. This should not be what you base your opinions on about this instrument. I say it's not useful to me, well, at least not very useful to me, because of the setting that I play in, because of what I do, which some people might actually find this instrument very helpful. And I don't know who those people are, but don't base everything around what I'm gonna say. When it comes to playing this thing, the slide positions are they're not very accurate. I mean, this instrument is not very expensive. This is a Chinese knockoff I got online. Cost about $200. But the slide positions are just off. If you were to get a more expensive one, like the $2,000 Miraphone one, I bet the slide positions would be phenomenal. But on this instrument, the slide positions are 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see how this part does not line up with the bell, at least from my angle? 4 is about right there. Then 5 is about right here. And then they throw you a low ball. 6 is right there, and 7th is right there. You want to know the bad thing about 7th position on this? You take off the slide very easily at 7th position. So this is a bit of a problem, because it's hard to be fully chromatic on this instrument without accidentally ripping the slide right off. That's a bit of an exaggeration. It's really hard to do fast chromatic playing without taking the slide off the instrument. That's a little less dramatic. But I found myself not really having that much of a problem, because I never really used that B natural at the 7th position. And every other note is going to be around here. So it's not too much of a problem. However, when it does occur, it is quite a dramatic change. Here I have a trumpet with me, and here is the comparison between the two, or at least the size comparison between the two. You can see the trumpet is a little longer. Actually, starting from the bend right here, it's kind of similar size, but starting from the mouthpiece, then yeah. They use the same mouthpiece. This came with a trumpet mouthpiece, that being a 7C. And yeah, they use the same mouthpiece. So I'm gonna play a little bit on these two instruments and just a little bit of a comparison. But again, I am not a good trumpet player. I'm not a trumpet player at all. So keep that in mind whilst viewing this comparison. slide positions you saw weren't exactly accurate as to what I showed you, but I do assure you they change quite a lot when it comes to this instrument. I'm not sure if it's because I'm playing out of tune or because this instrument's playing out of tune, because there is no other tuning slide for you to be able to adjust. If you're flat, you can't push anything in. If you're sharp, you can't push anything out. If it's flat, just do this. But it feels like this instrument is just all over the place when it comes to intonation. So be careful of that. You really got to use your ears when it comes to this instrument. For trombones, you have to use your ears a lot, but for this instrument, soprano trombones, you have to use them even more because it just feels all over the place. Now, I would rather play a trumpet than this instrument because well, at least I would rather play this trumpet over this soprano trombone, like these particular instruments that I hold in my hands. But that's because this just feels more, not free, but it feels more easy to play. It just feels like I could get the notes out better. For some reason, this particular instrument that I bought, it feels very different. It feels a lot more restrictive, I guess. When I play anything in the open, when I play any open note, well, not any note, but for example, if I were to play an open note in the higher register, it feels a lot harder to get out on here than it is to get out on here. Now, that could just be these instruments' faults, or it could be my fault, which is most likely the case. But just as a disclaimer, this instrument is not exactly what you'd call high quality. Bought it for $100 off a friend who bought it for $100 off of somebody, and it feels fine. Well, out of the box it did not, but it feels fine to play. However, I do have first valve issues. And for this instrument, it feels a lot harder to play for some reason. My sound gets cut off a lot easier, no matter how straight I keep my air, no matter how consistent I keep it, or no matter how wide I open up my throat and spread my teeth apart when I play. It just feels different. I swear it just feels different, or maybe it's just my own fault, but it feels so much cleaner on trumpet. It might just be because the valve's cutting off the airflow slightly, temporarily, but it just feels a lot easier to arpeggiate on this instrument than it does on this one. So what exactly is the takeaway from all this yammering, and rambling? Well, the shape of the instrument affects the timbre, tone. This instrument has intonation issues. This instrument is better to play fast on. This one has glissandos. They each have their pros and their cons, but this has more pros and less cons than this instrument. For one, you need to learn trombone slide positions for this instrument if you were a trumpet player. If you were a trombone player, there's a major adjustment period that happens with learning all these slide positions or figuring out the intonation for all these slide positions. And that's not terrible, but then you have a trumpet mouthpiece that you have to learn how to be good with. So the audience that this tends to attract is people who can play the trombone, but also, I guess, can play the trumpet, can somewhat play the trumpet, or know about the trumpet, I guess. Which is the reason why this is not a very practical instrument. It's because you need to know at least a little bit of both instruments in order to play this one. You need to play like a trumpet, but you need to do slide positions like a trombone player. That's not saying I don't like this instrument. That's not saying that this instrument is terrible. This is a great instrument. I like this instrument. It has its uses. It's just a little too niche for my liking. Now, the reason why I mention this and the reason why I say this about this instrument and not the cimbasso or the contrabass trombone is because I am a low brass player. I always will be, because that's my passion. That's what I love. So that's why I'm not as willing to deal with the problems on this instrument as I am with chimbasso and contrabass trombone. I do apologize if I am spreading a little bit of misinformation about these instruments, because I'm just speaking from experience. I'm not actually really, I don't know if any of this is factual at all, but I'm not a trumpet player. I've already made that clear, so I do apologize. Feel free to correct me. But in conclusion, this instrument is very niche, and you know what? That's okay, because you don't need to be a professional to enjoy what you're doing. In fact, I'd rather have fun playing an instrument that I want to, rather than not have fun playing an instrument that I don't want to. That, not to say that I want to play trumpet or anything, but I like this instrument. It combines the two instruments that I know, not just the two instruments I know, and puts it into one, whilst remaining trombone-like. The trombone has been my instrument ever since, and I'm glad that something like this exists. So, good job. To end it off, I guess I'll play a little bit more on this, because I'm artificially inflating how much soprano trombone content there is on YouTube. So I guess I might as well do some playing.